Today I want to share how I did the dependency injection framework myself. I created a small lightweight dependency injection framework for this project. It's not industry standard, but it helped me to understand uh, the basics of dependency injections. Later, when I will implement in a real project, or then I will use VContainer, which is a dependency injection framework provided. Um, I can show if I go VContainer. This is the VContainer dependency framework that I will apply in any real world projects. But to understand this, I got help while creating my own. So I have these attributes. Let's see what attributes are. First, the inject attribute. So this attribute will be used in all the fields and methods that needs dependency injection. Provide attribute is for providing the methods, like marking the methods that will provide some instance of class as dependency. Register, so any class that will be using register attribute will by itself provide its uh, instant, like will itself register itself. And I have finally injector attribute, which will help in injection of the dependencies inside that class. Then I have the DIManager. So here is exactly what dependency is happening. This is a singleton persistent, and it has a dictionary name registry, which is type and object. So it will store every object of every single type. Let's first see the assembly. So every script folder has their own assemblies, and I have marked few assemblies here that will be required for dependency injections. And then this method is getting type up from the assemblies that have this specified attribute that we will pass here. So if we will see how I did it, and we can also get some types by passing interface. So this is reflection that will go inside every script and will check which types have this attribute or which types have marked as this attribute or interface. And here I made the names as an enum type, so I don't have to use these, which are prone to errors. Rather, I will use the assembly BTG utilities like this as an enum. And here, so I'm first getting all the assemblies from my project, and then in each assembly I'm searching by their name. I'm getting their type, and then I'm adding them inside this dictionary. And now here this method add types from assembly using interface type will take an array of assemblies, will store the required the assemblies, the types I want. So it's checking whether this type is not equal to interface type, and it's assignable from type, the interface type is, then only add it. So if I have an interface named IDependencyProvider, then it will first see that is this type equal to IDependencyProvider. If yes, then we don't add that. But if the type is assignable from IDependencyProvider, then only add it. Here I'm using attributes to do the same. I'm checking if the object, if the type has the attribute type, and then if it has, then add it. Next, coming back to DIManager, at awake, which runs at -1000 order. So I am registering the dependencies. First, I'm getting all the dependencies of ISelfDependencyRegister type. So anyone who wanna register themselves as dependencies, they need to implement ISelfDependencyRegister, and then registering. And then we are getting IDependencyProviderForOthers. So these types will provide dependency for others but won't register themselves as dependencies. So that's what happening. And here I'm also getting the types that have the register attribute and then registering them. After all the registrations happening, then we are injecting. So then we will check the types that has IDependency injector, and then it will store and inject into there. An IDependency injector from mono behaviors, if they find, then they will also store it. Now we have to make separate this for mono behaviors, because for mono behaviors we cannot, like later we will see in the inject method that for mono behaviors we have to pass it as an object. If I go here, you can see the parameter has object. So for mono behaviors we have to pass it as an object. For normal classes type that implements IDependency injector, we pass them directly as type. You can see. So two methods overloading. And then finally we will get the injector attribute, the types that have the injector attribute. So this is class attribute. So any class that has injector attribute will automatically get injections of all the reference that it has. Now see register type. So first we will check if our registry already has that type. If yes, then just return it and log that it's already registered. Otherwise, if the type is assignable from mono behavior, if the type of mono behavior is assignable from the type, then we will just find the object from the scene, or we will add a component of mono behavior to this game object. And then we will register it. Otherwise, if it's not a mono behavior, then we will create an instance of it, add it to the registry, and return the instance. Register instance. So this is for registering an instance. This is for registering a type. So we are creating an instance ourselves and registering it. But here we can pass an instance and then assign it to the registry. For inject, same thing is happening. First this is injecting with an object type, so any mono behaviors that have inject methods can use this. So first we getting the injectables type, then we checking for all the fields that can be public, non-public, or instance, and that has attributes defined as inject attribute. Once we get all the injectable fields, then we will search in all the injectable fields. We will first get the type, and then we will get the dependency, and we will get the reference that we have stored in our registry. If we see the resolve method, here we have it. So it's just trying to get the value from registry using the type and then returning it. So here we are getting here we are getting the instance of that type, and then if it's null, then we just say failed. Otherwise we set the value of that instance inside the field that we were searching by this attribute, and then we just give a debug log that field injected. For injectable methods, the same thing. This was for fields and this is for methods. It will again search for the inject attributes. Any method that has them, it will store them, and then for each method it will just invoke the method and also will use the resolve. And then once it's done, it will even log that method injected. And this inject is for type. The previous one was for object. This one is for type. First we will check if the type is mono behavior, and if it's assignable from the type, then we will return, because we don't want any mono behavior to be using this method. We want mono behaviors to use this one. We have to pass the mono behavior as an object, and then we will resolve the type, and then we will also get its field, and if it has inject attributes, then rest is same. Now that's all. Now register from providers. What this does is it first gets the provider, and then it search in the provider any method that has been marked with provider attributes. Once that has been marked with provider attributes, it will run that method and will get will get the instance of it and also the type of it, and then it will store in the registry. That's how it will get instances from a provider class which has provider attribute, and this must implement IDependencyProvider interface. And this is just a mono behavior finder. So that's it. And we have this injector. This interface will be implemented by the classes that want injection to themselves. And then we also have ISelfDependencyRegister interface. So these will be the classes that will provide itself as a dependency. And then we have IDependencyProviderForOthers. So it's an NP interface to mark a class as a dependency provider for other classes' dependencies, like the scriptable objects. Let's see how we did it. I have some example scripts also for better understanding. If I go here, you can see that we have this enemy service. What it does, it is marked as register and also an injector. So first DIManager will register it through reflection, and once it registers, then it will also inject the player service inside it. So let's see the player service. So this has ISelfDependencyRegister, so I made both. Like we can use either attributes or interfaces for registering and injecting. In the previous one I used the attributes, here I'm just using the interfaces. Same thing will happen. It will first, in the register, it will first check for ISelfDependencyRegisters, the type that have them. So here we can see player service have it, and then it will register it. Once it registers, then when injection happens, it will search for IDependency injection interfaces. So this player service also has that, so there it will inject it. So all these values will be getting the instances needed. Same. And now for, in startup, this one we have IDependencyProviderForOthers. So it will provide dependency of this health data, and it will not register itself, as here is no ISelfDependency register or register attribute. So it won't register itself, but it will provide the dependencies through this method. Here we can see provider, register from provider. This method will run, and that's how we will get it. Okay, here. Now same game manager will be injected automatically, as we have IDependency injector, and then we can use it just like this without need of writing our own. Oh, okay. First we are doing this so that we don't need to use constructor parameters for injecting or anything. But we can also manually add dependencies using DIManager.instance.register instance of enemy service. So we create it and then we register it like this. We can also directly register it like this: enemy service DIManager.instance register type of enemy service. This way it will be created first inside the DI, and then it will be registered also. This way we are creating it first and then registering it. And then if we want to inject, we will use this DIManager.instance.inject, and then we will send the type. So this is how the entire thing is working. So this is my own framework, and it really helped me learning the basics of dependency injections. First we need to register the classes we want dependencies inside a dictionary with the type, and then once we have registered them, then we can just check for the classes that needs it, and it will automatically provide the dependencies inside the classes. And how we are checking which class need to be registered, which class need to be injected, we just using interfaces or we are using attributes. That's all. That's the very basic thing. So if I go to VContainer now, which I will talk about in the next video, there we can see that it also kind of similar. It has method injection, property injections, mono behaviors. So it's also similar. We can see it also uses attributes. It also can use it have to register, and that's it. It have to register as a mono behavior, yet it have to register differently. So three things: registration and injection and providing. So these are the main three things that happens in dependency injection. The provider class, I think I showed in the startup class, it's the providing, but it don't register itself. If it needed to register itself, it needed to implement ISelfDependencyRegister, this interface, then it could register itself. So yeah, this is all.